Shop owner kicks out poor woman. Keanu Reeves walks in and changes everything. A moment that changed everything. It was just another rainy afternoon on 6th Avenue. Shoppers bustled past storefronts, eyes fixed on glowing screens, umbrellas bumping in silent wars. But inside one small corner shop, one of those places you walk past without a second glance, something happened that would ripple far beyond its dusty windows. A tired woman, soaked and shivering, walked in for help and was shoved out like trash. No one blinked. No one stopped. But then he walked in, not with cameras, not with security, not even with an umbrella. Keanu Reeves, yes, that Keanu Reeves, stepped through the door, took one look at the scene, and said 7 words that flipped the moment, the people and the world on its head. This isn't just a story about a celebrity. It's about humanity, about choices, and about how one act of kindness, in a world addicted to cruelty, can change everything. Chapter 1. The Shop on 6th Avenue. It was the kind of store you wouldn't remember the name of, a cramped little corner shop sandwiched between a pawn shop and a failing cafe. The paint on the sign had peeled so badly it was just a ghost of letters long gone. The front window displayed a few half-dressed mannequins in outdated clothes, and the faint flicker of a neon open sign buzzed overhead like a tired heartbeat. Inside, the air smelled of old fabric, faint floor cleaner, and stale ambition. The store sold second-hand clothes at first-hand prices, with rows of folded jeans, faded jackets, and racks of shirts arranged without care. Behind the worn-out counter stood a man who seemed carved from stone, Mr. Donovan, lean, sharply dressed, and never far from his suspicious glare. To him, the store wasn't about community or service. It was a test, a place to weed out the weak, the poor, the problems of society. He had rules and he lived by them. No loitering, no haggling, no charity cases. On that particular Tuesday, the wind howled through the cracks of the door, blowing in dry leaves and the sound of a distant siren. Mr. Donovan adjusted the collar of his blazer and looked out with mild disdain. Another hour, another shift. He had no idea what or who was about to walk in. Chapter 2. Marla, the woman with torn shoes. Marla didn't plan to enter that shop. She rarely went into places like that, not because she didn't need to, but because she hated the way people looked at her. The pity, the judgment, the way they talked slower around her, as if being poor meant she couldn't understand basic words. But that day her shoes had split at the sole. It had been raining all night and her feet were soaked through. Her socks clung to her skin like cold jelly. She had tried to dry them on a park bench but gave up. She only had $6, not enough for food and shoes, not even enough for a cab ride across town. She had seen the store before, ignored it like everyone else. But that morning, standing in the drizzle, shivering in her thin hoodie, it looked like a lifeline. She pulled her sleeves down to hide her bruised wrists and pushed open the heavy glass door. A bell jingled overhead, and the world changed. Chapter 3. Mr. Donovan, cold behind the counter. Mr. Donovan barely looked up when the door opened. He knew the type: wet hoodie, broken shoes, that uncertain hesitation poor people always had when they entered his shop. He saw it as weakness. He didn't tolerate weakness. She wandered toward the shoe rack slowly, scanning the shelves with soft, hopeful eyes. She wasn't loud. She didn't beg. She didn't even ask for help. But Mr. Donovan had already decided. She doesn't belong here. He waited, watched her pick up a pair of battered sneakers, one size too big but dry. She held them with care like they were glass. Then she walked up to the counter. "Hi, I was wondering, are these on sale? I only have $6, but—" Before she could finish, he snatched the shoes from her hands. "We're not a charity." Either pay full price or leave. Her mouth fell open slightly. Sir, You heard me. Leave. Now. Chapter 4. The First Encounter. The silence that followed was painful. Marla froze. For a moment, she thought maybe he was joking. Maybe he'd soften. But there was no kindness in his eyes. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracking. I didn't mean to offend you. Offend me? Lady, you offend the store by being in it. She turned, holding back tears, and stumbled back toward the door. Behind her, Mr. Donovan muttered under his breath, God, they're everywhere now, like rats. Outside, the rain had started again. People walked past, indifferent to the scene. No one had seen. No one had cared. Except one man. Chapter 5. A Watchful Eye. Across the street, parked in a black SUV, a man sat quietly. Sunglasses on, beard slightly scruffy, black hoodie. He blended in easily, but he had seen everything. Keanu Reeves wasn't there for a photo shoot. He wasn't filming a movie. He wasn't even supposed to be in that part of town. He had stopped at the red light, saw the woman go inside, and something tugged at him, an instinct. Then he saw her come out. Broken. He stepped out of the SUV without a word, no fanfare, no camera crew. Just one man walking slowly across the street, through the rain, toward a store that had just failed its biggest test. Chapter 6. Voices raised, hopes dashed. Marla lingered outside the store for a few seconds, stunned, cold, and humiliated. She glanced at the shoes one last time through the foggy window, then turned to walk away. Inside, Mr. Donovan grumbled, slamming the shoes back onto the shelf. He had no idea he was about to have a very unexpected visitor. The bell above the door jingled again. Mr. Donovan didn't even look up. If you're with her, just keep moving. Then he looked and froze. Chapter 7. Keanu Reeves enters. There was something quiet about him. No music, no entourage, just a presence, calm, still, and unmistakably commanding. Rain dripped from the edge of his jacket onto the floor. His boots made soft sounds against the old tile as he walked in. Good afternoon, Keanu said politely. Mr. Donovan squinted, confused for a moment. Are you? He started, then shook his head. You look familiar. Keanu smiled, that kind, lopsided smile people across the world knew. I just saw what happened with the woman who was here. Mr. Donovan immediately went on the defensive. Look, I don't know who you think you are, but this is my shop. We don't serve. She didn't ask to be served, Keanu said gently, interrupting. She just asked a question. Chapter 8. The Shift in Energy. Mr. Donovan's confidence cracked just a bit. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone famous. But he doubled down. She didn't have the money. That's not my problem. Keanu took a slow breath and looked around the shop. It's interesting, he said almost to himself. You've got shelves full of things no one wants. And yet, when someone finally walks in with need, you throw them out. This is business, Donovan snapped, not a soup kitchen. Business? Keanu asked, turning to face him fully. What kind of business turns away humanity? The question lingered in the air like thunder after lightning. Chapter 9. A question that stops everyone. I've seen a lot of things, Keanu continued, voice still calm but with a noticeable edge. Movie sets, war zones, homeless shelters. I've seen people with nothing give everything, and people with everything give nothing. Mr. Donovan scoffed. You think being an actor makes you some kind of moral authority? No, Keanu said, walking to the shoe rack and picking up the very pair Marla had held. I think being human does. He carried the shoes to the counter and placed them gently on the surface. How much? Donovan hesitated. 30. Keanu pulled out his wallet and laid down $100 bill. She said she had 6, he said, so I figure I'll cover the rest. And I want the change in socks and food if you sell any. Mr. Donovan didn't move. Or, Keanu said, leaning in slightly, I'll buy your store and turn it into a shelter. Silence. Chapter 10. What would you do if no one was watching? Behind them, a teenager who had been pretending to browse stopped to stare. A mother holding her baby peeked around a shelf. Without knowing it, a small audience had gathered. Keanu turned to Donovan again, and this time he asked softly, What would you do if no one was watching? Donovan looked around and suddenly realized everyone was. He faltered, then straightened up. Fine. You want to help her? Do it outside. This is still my shop. Keanu nodded. Then I'll do it my way. He took the shoes, stepped outside into the rain, and jogged after Marla, who was halfway down the block. When she turned and saw him running toward her, holding shoes, she blinked in disbelief. Miss, he called out, his voice warm but urgent. You forgot something. Chapter 11. A Lesson in Grace. Marla stared, dumbfounded. Her eyes flicked between Keanu's face and the shoes in his hands. I don't understand, she whispered. These are yours now, Keanu said gently. I watched what happened. It shouldn't have gone down that way. Her lips quivered. I didn't want trouble. I was just... You didn't cause trouble, Keanu interrupted. You showed the world who he is, and now I want to show the world who you are. He knelt on the wet sidewalk, and gently placed the shoes at her feet. The passers-by began to slow. Phones quietly came out. The rain still fell, but the world around them held its breath. You deserve more than this, he said softly. But for now, let's start with warm feet. Chapter 12. The owner's defensiveness. Back in the store, Mr. Donovan peeked through the window, watching the scene unfold with clenched fists. The buzz of voices outside grew louder. Donovan's pride burned in his chest. He turned away from the window, muttering, These people and their sob stories. He glanced around the store, suddenly self-conscious. What if someone uploaded this online? What if he became the story? And that's when the teenager from earlier, still in the shop, walked up to him, holding his phone. Dude, the kid said, eyes wide, you're going viral. Chapter 13. Keanu's Unexpected Request. Outside, Marla stood in her new shoes, socks tucked into a bag that Keanu had also purchased. Why are you doing this? She asked. Keanu looked up and smiled. Because people forget how much good a small thing can do. You didn't deserve what happened in there. She looked down. That store, it's like everywhere else. I've been invisible so long I almost expect it. Keanu put a hand on her shoulder. You're not invisible anymore. Then he turned to the small crowd and raised his voice slightly. I have a question for all of you. If you were in that store instead of her, what would you have done? The crowd murmured. Would you speak up, walk away, pretend you didn't see? He waited a beat. Because it's not just about that store. It's about every place where kindness dies in silence. Chapter 14. The Lesson Begins. Keanu turned and walked back toward the shop. The crowd followed. He stepped through the door again, this time with a dozen witnesses behind him. Phones recorded. Eyes watched. Donovan stood frozen. I'd like to propose something, Keanu said. This store isn't broken because of the merchandise. It's broken because of how people are treated. Donovan scoffed. Oh, and what? You're going to fix it with a Hollywood speech. No, Keanu said. I'm going to fix it with action. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather checkbook. How much is this shop worth? What? You heard me. You've got 10 seconds to name your price. The crowd gasped. Donovan stuttered. "You can't be serious." 5, 4. Donovan, seeing the pressure mount, said the first number that came to mind. 200,000. Keanu scribbled, tore the check, and handed it over. Done. Chapter 15. A shopping spree for Marla. Within an hour, the paperwork was underway. The store was no longer Donovan's Deals. It had a new name scrawled in marker on the glass: Dignity Threads. And Marla? She stood inside, surrounded by staff Keanu had called from a local shelter, people who knew what it meant to serve with grace. Volunteers came in, smiling. Racks were reorganized, prices were slashed. Keanu turned to Marla. "You've got the first pick." Her eyes filled with tears. "Anything?" "Anything." She walked through the aisles like someone dreaming, not because of the clothes, but because someone had finally told her she mattered, and the world was watching. Chapter 16. Cameras. Rolling, a hidden message. By now, phones were everywhere. People posted videos, live streams, reactions. The footage of Keanu Reeves kneeling to hand Marla shoes spread like wildfire. Keanu kindness, dignity threads. Be like Keanu. These hashtags began trending within an hour. But something else caught people's attention. In one video, as Keanu helped Marla, he glanced straight into the camera lens and said, "This isn't charity, it's justice. No one should have to earn dignity." The clip was replayed millions of times. Talk shows picked it up. News anchors debated it. One by one, celebrities, politicians, and ordinary people joined in. What started as a quiet act of compassion had become a global mirror. Chapter 17. Going viral. The Internet reacts. Within 24 hours, millions had watched the video. Comment sections were filled with praise, outrage, and self-reflection. I cried watching this. We need more people like Keanu. That shop owner should be ashamed. What if we all did one thing like this a week? TikTok creators reenacted the scene. Twitter was flooded with donation links. Instagram influencers shared their own experiences of being turned away or helping strangers. Even YouTube talk shows analyzed every second of the footage, dissecting Keanu's calm power and the symbolism of the shoes. And in a world starved for real heroes, this moment felt real. Chapter 18. Mr. Donovan's change of heart. At first, Mr. Donovan disappeared. He shut himself away, refusing interviews, deleting social media accounts. But the internet didn't forget. A week later, he reappeared. Not on TV, not with a lawyer, but at the same store. Keanu had reopened it with a ribbon-cutting ceremony and renamed it Dignity Threads, a community closet. Donovan approached quietly, unsure. He looked thinner, tired. He asked to speak with Keanu, who was sorting boxes of donated winter coats. "I don't expect forgiveness," Donovan said, voice hoarse. "But watching what you did, what everyone did, it made me realize how far I'd fallen." Keanu looked at him for a long moment. "Are you here to apologize?" "Yes," Donovan said, "and to work, if you'll let me." Chapter 19. Marla's New Beginning. Meanwhile, Marla had found herself in a whirlwind. She had been offered temporary housing, donated clothing, and job interviews thanks to the exposure. But most importantly, she had regained something she hadn't felt in years: self-worth. She began volunteering at the store, helping others who came in cold and scared, just as she had been. In one touching moment, she spotted a mother and her child in worn-out jackets and gently guided them toward the warmest section of the store. "No charge," she told them. "We don't sell warmth here. We give it." Keanu, watching from a few feet away, smiled quietly. "Looks like you've found your calling." Marla nodded. "I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm giving back. Chapter 20. Keanu's Final Words. Later that evening, as the last customer left and the doors were locked, Keanu stood at the front of the store beside Marla, looking out at the city lights. "You changed everything," she said softly. He turned to her. "No, you did." He reached into his pocket and handed her a small envelope. Inside was a scholarship application and a handwritten letter of recommendation, signed by him. "I don't just want you to be safe. I want you to thrive." Marla wiped away tears. "I don't know what to say." Keanu smiled. "Say you'll pay it forward. That's all I ask." She nodded. "Always." And with that, he slipped into the night, vanishing into the rain once again. No press, no cameras, just a man who saw a wrong and made it right. Chapter 21. The Ripple Effect. What happened on 6th Avenue didn't stay on 6th Avenue. Within days, similar stories emerged around the world. Inspired by the viral video, people began stepping in when others were mistreated. In stores, on buses, at schools, and even in hospitals. A retired woman in Chicago paid for a young man's groceries after he was shamed in line. A college student in Manila stood up when a classmate was mocked for worn clothes. A taxi driver in Johannesburg gave a free ride to a woman walking barefoot through the rain. The news called it the dignity wave. The idea was simple, powerful. No act of kindness is too small, and no person should ever be treated as invisible. Chapter 22. Media Storm. Truth versus Hype. The media swarmed around the story. Morning shows invited Keanu. Headlines called him the silent hero. Major networks wanted interviews. But Keanu declined all requests. He issued only one written statement. "This isn't about me. It never was. It's about what we tolerate, what we ignore, and how we treat the people who have the least. Everyone deserves to be seen. Dignity should never be optional." The world listened, and for once the message stuck. News anchors stopped shouting and started listening. The focus shifted from celebrity gossip to real human stories. And at the center of it all, Marla. Chapter 23. The store becomes a symbol. Dignity Threads wasn't just a store anymore. It became a model. Local governments reached out to replicate it, not just as a charity, but as a self-sustaining community resource. Donated clothes, pay-what-you-can pricing, free clothing for job interviews, warmth drives in winter. Volunteers received training in trauma awareness and empathy. Businesses offered partnerships. Schools held donation campaigns. Marla became the store's first official coordinator. She trained others, hired with compassion, organized outreach events. She even spoke at City Hall, her voice shaking but clear. "I was ignored, pushed aside, but someone reminded me that one small moment of dignity can change everything. Let's not wait for movie stars to remind us. Let's be that for each other." Thunderous applause. Chapter 24. Mr. Donovan's Redemption. Mr. Donovan, once the villain of the story, stayed on. It wasn't easy. He faced criticism online and in person, but he didn't hide. He took the lowest job, sorting donations in the back. No salary, just effort. Marla eventually offered him a paid position. "I don't deserve that," he told her. "Maybe not yet," she replied, "but keep showing up." He did, every day. He began to listen, to learn, to ask questions instead of making assumptions. One afternoon, he helped a young girl find a prom dress. When she smiled and thanked him, he blinked away tears. It was the first time someone had looked at him like he mattered in months. Chapter 25. A Legacy Bigger Than One Man. A year passed. Keanu never returned to the store, but his impact never left. A mural of his quiet act, kneeling to offer Marla shoes, covered the entire side of the building. Below it read, Dignity is a right, not a reward. School children visited on field trips. Journalists called it the heart of the city. Other communities opened their own versions. Some called them hope hubs, others kindness closets. Marla stood at the doorway most days, greeting every guest. Not as a symbol, not as a survivor, but as a leader. And each time someone asked her about that day, she would smile and say, "A man walked into a store. That's all. But he didn't walk past me, and that made all the difference." Chapter 26. The Letter No One Expected. One cold autumn morning, Marla arrived early to unlock the doors of Dignity Threads. On the welcome mat sat a weather-worn envelope with no stamp, no return address, just her name written in neat block letters. She opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. "Dear Marla, I've walked through thousands of cities, seen the best and worst of people. But watching you take your pain and turn it into strength reminded me what change really looks like. You didn't just survive, you led. You reminded the world that dignity is not about dollars. It's about decency. Thank you for showing up even when no one else did. K." Marla folded the letter carefully, her hands trembling. There was a folded check inside. Blank payee. Signed. She tucked it away. She didn't need the money. But the words, she'd carry those forever. Chapter 27. Dignity Threads expands. By year 2, Dignity Threads had grown from one humble store into a nonprofit organization with multiple branches across the country. Each store was named after the founding idea, but uniquely shaped by the needs of its neighborhood. In Detroit, it included a mini-clinic offering free checkups. In Phoenix, a mobile unit visited tent encampments. In Atlanta, a workshop trained youth in tailoring and retail management. Marla became the organization's first national director. She spoke at conferences. Universities studied the model. Even major retailers reached out, not for publicity but to learn. They all wanted to know, how had one small act changed everything? Marla always said the same thing. It wasn't the act, it was the heart behind it. Chapter 28. A Visit from the Past. One rainy Thursday, a little girl walked into the store. She was small, wet, and holding her mother's hand tightly. Her mother, eyes hollow with exhaustion, asked if the girl could get a warm coat. Marla knelt down in front of the girl, smiling. "Let's find something special for you." As the mother nodded, she whispered, "I saw your video. I was homeless when I watched it. That video saved me." Tears welled in Marla's eyes. "You saved yourself. I just lit a match." She handed the girl a red coat, buttoned it gently, then stepped back. "Beautiful," she whispered. "You look like a superhero." The little girl beamed, and the circle quietly completed itself. Chapter 29. Marla's Journal Entry. Late one evening, alone in the office, Marla opened a worn notebook she rarely showed anyone. It was her private journal, the one she started on the night she was kicked out of that store. She turned to a fresh page and began to write. It's strange how a moment meant to break you can be the one that builds everything. I still remember that cold floor, the feeling of not being enough. And then he walked in. He didn't rescue me. He saw me. That moment became my new beginning. Not because someone famous helped me, but because I believed him, that I was worthy of warmth, of kindness, of dignity. I hope I never forget what that felt like, and I pray I help others feel the same. She closed the book and turned off the lights. Chapter 30. The Final Scene. Full Circle. A few years later, Marla walked into the same store, now expanded and buzzing with people. There were shelves of warm clothes, laughter from volunteers, coffee brewing in the back. A little boy held up a pair of shoes to his dad, grinning. "These ones." She smiled and stepped aside as a new volunteer walked in, a teenager, nervous and unsure. "First day?" Marla asked. He nodded. "Well, you're in the right place," she said. "All we ask is that you treat everyone who walks through that door like a guest in your home." The boy looked around. "I can do that." Marla nodded, then paused, as if she heard something at the door. She turned, but no one was there, only the soft ring of the entrance bell and the quiet rain beginning to fall. Outside, a man in a black coat turned the corner and disappeared into the city, unrecognized, smiling to himself. Because he didn't need applause. He didn't want recognition. He had seen the seed bloom, and for Keanu Reeves, that was enough. The end.